match the chop it or drop it. Golden State, they've been a little bit busy. Klay Thompson, Chris Paul out, DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield in, and Zach Lowe, you wrote in a recent article, this team is presently constituted. It could make the playoffs, perhaps even win a round, but anything beyond that feels unlikely. So I go to you, Mr. Lowe. Chop it or drop it. The Warriors have done enough this season to continue to maximize Steph Curry's career.
Let's chop it. It's the Warriors. We have to chop it. We're mandated to chop it. Look, it depends what done enough. What do you mean? And what could they have done? What's the move they could have made? Right now, they're not a contender. I don't think they're particularly close to being a championship contender, not in the Western Conference. The gap between Curry and whoever the second best player on their team is on a given night is just too big. But they're a good team. They're still a good team. That's a solid accomplishment in the Western Conference. It's just not, if your standard is contend for a title, they're not there. And that's why I think we're going to continue to hear them connected to Lauri Markkanen until that situation is resolved. And if it's not him, then whoever the next guy down the line is.
So you think, Zach, that they're still sort of in these Lauri conversations?
I do. I don't think those conversations are going to end until at the earliest August 6th, when Lauri Markkanen is eligible to renegotiate his contract and extend it with Utah and get a little clarity there. And then he could be traded before the trade deadline in that event. I think they like him. They like the idea of his fit with Steph Curry and Draymond Green as sort of a shooting center to replicate the death lineup they had all those years ago. But Utah's going to want a lot, and it's all going to come down to price. How much of our future are we willing to sacrifice for a team that may be really good, but maybe not quite good enough? It also depends how great you think that team with Steph and Markkanen and Green and whoever's left over. Is it a title contender or is it just a really good team? Those are the toughest decisions for a front office.
Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, well, adding Lauri Markkanen would change the conversation dramatically, but I think really what this comes down to is this. Jonathan Kuminga, who took a huge leap forward a year ago, Zach and I are big Kuminga guys. There's got to be more there, though. There's got to be more progression. He's got to improve his ball handling, his ability to get shots off the dribble. This can't be it, what we saw a year ago. If he takes another step forward and gets up into that, 23 a game, 23 points per game, this kind of conversation, that's the kind of step that Golden State needs to really be relevant in the West. And also Andrew Wiggins, his scoring average has dropped every year he's been in Golden State, only 13 points a game a year ago. Yep. And I know he's had a lot to deal with on the court. He's had injuries off the court. He's had issues. If he can find something close to what he was when they won the championship in the postseason, right there will give you enough with the new pieces they've added to keep Golden State in the mix and certainly keep us talking about him.
Well, to your point, I mean, that's probably why we haven't seen Jonathan Kuminga get that contract extension, at least yet, from the Golden State Warriors, even though he's eligible. I will say this. Since Buddy Hield came into the league 2016-2017 and made three-pointers, number one, Steph Curry. Number two, yes, Buddy Hield. So we'll see how that ends up working out. All right, did you guys, in case you missed this?
Hello, Dub Nation. Today we will explore and detail the only viable way for the Warriors to trade for Lauri Markkanen. Stay with us for this in-depth discussion as we look at the latest updates on the big trade involving Brandon Podziemski and Lauri Markkanen to the Warriors. As we approach the end of July, there is really only one way for the Warriors to trade for Lauri Markkanen and give Stephen Curry the next big thing. We know what the Utah Jazz are willing to accept and what the Warriors are willing to offer. What exactly is this? Here's what NBA insider Mark Stein had to say about these Jazz-Warriors trade rumors, which is a good place to start. There is a belief in some corners of the league that Utah's interest in Brandon Podziemski, in combination with future draft compensation the Warriors could offer, is serious enough to keep alive the prospect of a trade for Lauri Markkanen between now and 6th of August. This is the first day that Markkanen is eligible to renegotiate and extend his contract with the Jazz, at a value much greater than his expiring salary of $18 million for the 2024-2025 season. It's becoming increasingly clear that it's Brandon Podziemski, not Jonathan Kuminga, who Danny Ainge wants. If Brandon Podziemski is the player keeping the Warriors from trading for Lauri Markkanen, I completely disagree with that decision. The Utah Jazz have set a trade deadline that aligns with Markkanen's contract extension eligibility date, giving us a timeline to follow. This extension for Lauri could net him a 4-year contract worth more than $200 million. Jonathan Kuminga could also get a similar contract. Would you trade Kuminga to bring in Lauri Markkanen if you're worried about value? Here's what Markstein had to say. Additionally, there is a growing belief around the league that the Warriors would be more willing to move Jonathan Kuminga in a trade for Markkanen or any major trade than Brandon Podziemski. However, to date, Golden State's offers for Markkanen have centered on a Moses Moody package and draft compensation, without including Podziemski or Kuminga. Both teams kind of showed their cards here. Danny Ainge wants Brandon Podziemski in exchange for Lauri Markkanen. The Warriors are willing to give up draft picks and Moses Moody. This is a classic barter negotiation, a battle of leverage between organizations, and it remains to be seen which side will give in first. Podziemski is a player who could have a good future in the league. During his rookie year, he showed many flashes of a good player, averaging 9 points per game, just under 6 rebounds, 45.5% shooting, and 38.5% three-point attempts. He excelled in the NBA Summer League and played well for Team USA against the Olympic team. Some of his advanced stats are very good, first in the NBA in carries taken, 56.5% successful on step-back three-point shots, 38.5% successful on attempts from above the arc, and a usage rate of 15.5%, which is 12th on the team. If he gets more opportunities and his usage rate increases, his numbers should go up considerably. The Utah Jazz are probably aware of this. Now, we move on to today's poll question. Would you trade Brandon Podziemski for Lauri Markkanen? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. I think Podziemski has become Steve Kerr's favorite. Although he didn't see much use, it was clear that Kerr really liked Podziemski's adaptation to the system. He is a 21-year-old player with untapped potential and continued growth, comfortable and polished both with and without the ball. The Warriors are looking to replace Klay Thompson and could see Podziemski as a key piece, both defensively and offensively, in Kerr's system. He is hardworking and determined, characteristics valued by Kerr, and still has 3 years of contract control, which is crucial for a team like the Warriors, which is tight on the salary cap. His contract is extremely affordable, especially for the Warriors. For the 2024 to 2025 season, he earns $3.5 million, $3.7 million the following year, and $5.68 million in the 2026 to 2027 season. This is a very advantageous contract and, from my point of view, it makes perfect sense for Golden State to consider Podziemski untouchable. Next segment of the program, where does Jonathan Kuminga fit into this discussion? Currently, I watch the USA vs Germany game. With Stephen Curry playing spectacularly, hitting a 3 from 35 feet before halftime. He looks great with the number 4 on the American team. Anthony Slater reported that Mike Dunleavy said Jonathan Kuminga was virtually untouchable in negotiations. While not completely untouchable, Dunleavy used terms that indicate the Warriors' high regard for Kuminga. With the Warriors' current actions, they expect Podziemski and Kuminga to become stars in the league, as their hesitation to trade Markkanen, which is a move that would make them better, is telling. If Podziemski and Kuminga are both untouchable, then the Lauri Markkanen trade probably won't happen, as Danny Ainge won't accept Moses Moody and draft picks for an all-star and the league's most improved player. I would probably trade Podziemski, although there are arguments to be made that Kuminga should be traded. Wings are more valuable in the modern NBA. Kuminga, with his athletic presence and impact on both ends of the court, could be more valuable. His production has increased dramatically with his role, and he possesses greater defensive potential than Podziemski. Jonathan Kuminga can be compared to Jaylen Brown in his third year. Brown took a while to get into gear, but he became the NBA Finals MVP. Brown's third-year numbers, 13 points per game, 4 rebounds, 46.5% shooting, and over 34% three-point attempts. Kuminga has better numbers in points, rebounds, and shots from the field, although a little lower in attempts from 3. Kuminga's still developing defensive ability could match the potential Brown had. Big, athletic wings like Kuminga could be crucial to winning a 5th championship with Curry. Smitty's suggested trade proposal: the Warriors receive Markkanen, while the Jazz receive Podziemski, Andrew Wiggins, as salary filler for first-round trades and second-round picks. The Warriors' potential lineup would be Steph Curry, DeAnthony Melton or Buddy Hield, Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green, and Lauri Markkanen. This team would be competitive in the Western Conference, which is highly contested but is open to Golden State taking over. What is the most likely scenario? Kuminga swap, Podziemski swap, or no swap? Let me know in the comments. My final thoughts. I believe that the stubbornness of both Dunleavy and Ainge will prevent a negotiation that would benefit both parties. Why would the Jazz keep Markkanen if they are in a middle-of-the-road situation? And the Warriors need to maximize the time they have left with Curry playing at his peak. We know it's time for the Warriors to consider a risky move. For years, the Warriors played conservatively, re-signing their veteran stars while using draft picks on young prospects. That was the two-timeline strategy championed by owner Joe Lacob. Although it brought them victory in the 2022 NBA Finals, it proved inadequate to sustain their dynasty. The upcoming offseason emerges as a critical moment for the Golden State Warriors, ready to reshape the franchise's trajectory. Will they commit to one last attempt at winning the championship, or will they opt for a financial restructuring? Mike Dunleavy Jr. and the front office face a series of daunting choices, leaving fans eager to find out the team's next moves. Expectations surrounding Golden State's future intensify. Before you finish, make sure to subscribe to the channel. After all, as we said before, we are producing Warriors videos almost every day. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow on Gold-Blooded News. In conclusion, the future looks uncertain for the Golden State Warriors. With the possibility of losing and adding players to the team and the various trade options available, the Warriors are well positioned to continue to be a force to be reckoned with in the NBA. Stay tuned for more updates on the Warriors, and remember to support by leaving your feedback in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications to know when I will send new news. Thank you for following Gold-Blooded News. A hug and see you next time.
We're gold-blooded!
Go Dubs!